Oak Island Town Council public hearing and regular meeting October the 11th, 2016 is now called to order. Start our meeting by saying I am so glad to see so many people here, and I am so glad that we dodged a huge bullet and that Oak Island fared as well as it did during the past week. Can't go much further without saying an extra special thank you and a heartfelt appreciation to our staff who was starting last Tuesday. We're ready to roll. We just said go, and they did. And you see the island today hardly looks like there's anything that has happened, although we still have areas of picking up trash. But that was totally remarkable for me as a new mayor to feel the confidence from those staff members that they had this, and they did. I'd like to thank our town manager. She put in many hours as well as the council. Like I said, I'm happy everybody's here, and I'm glad we're all sitting here without having the worries that are happening upriver. All of you know I come from Kinston. I was there when Floyd hit. Got 2 grandchildren still in the area and lots of friends that are going to be affected by this rise in the water. So I got more on my mind tonight, too, to go along with everything else. But keep them in your prayers and all the other people in eastern North Carolina that are going to be affected in the next couple of days. All right, with that said, I would like to ask for the invitation of Councilman Medlin and Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we stand here tonight knowing we're blessed. We don't know why we were spared the way we were, because so many around us really were damaged, and so many are still suffering. We thank you for your blessings, for the blessings you've shown us. And we would lift those tonight who are in harm's way, still all over the state, really. A lot even in our own county. And just, Lord, ask you that you would just protect them, guide them, give them peace through these difficult times. Some have gone without power since Saturday and no hopes of power until the weekend or after. But we pray you just bless them and comfort them and give them peace. For the other areas of our country that were so ravaged, the state of Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, and even the country of Haiti, as we watched that unfold on television, I was reminded so powerfully how blessed we are. We worry about our houses that we live in, and those people there in Haiti would call our houses mansions. So many of them lost everything, even their lives. So just bless them, Lord. Bless that country and guide their leaders as they recover from the storm. Thank you for this beautiful day we've had today. Thank you for this beautiful place that we live. Lord, we would lift our first responders to you tonight, our men and women overseas who are in harm's way tonight, protecting us, making sure that we have the freedom to stand and do what we're doing right now. We're grateful. We thank you. We pray you protect them, guard them against harm. Ask for your guidance tonight as we deal with some pretty sensitive issues that relate to our town. I thought before the storm that my plate was pretty full, and now it's running over. So we need your guidance, we need your direction, we need your wisdom, and we ask for it. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to go into our first public hearing. The public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on a proposed revision to the development line as approved by the Coastal Resource Commission. I'd like to remind you to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and appreciate your willingness to get engaged.
We don't have anyone signed up for this hearing.
Okay, well, thank you. All right. We need a motion to come out of public hearing. Is that correct?
Did you want to hear from Mr. Edwards?
Can we do that during discussion?
can.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to close public hearing number 1.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Public hearing number 2, the purpose...
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm
Action.
skipping right over the thing we stopped to talk about.
Madam Mayor,
Steve, you might as well come up here and explain. I think we have some questions about...
or, okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's okay, go ahead.
Does anyone have any questions before I call for a motion?
What happened?
The Coastal Resource Commission complimented the town of Oak Island and their preparedness of the development line. However, there was one area where the development line wound up seaward of the construction line that was mapped out from the core project in 2000, and we had to adjust that small area to bring it back in line with that core line, because their rule is that no development line can be seaward of any mean high water line, and that was the mean high water line at the time of construction of the beach nourishment projects, the Turtle project and the harbor project. And it was in the areas between a couple lots around 49th, on the west side of 49th Street down to 58th Street, and we've made those corrections, and we have already sent them off to DCM for review, and Ken Richardson has accepted those as, you know, compliant with the Division of Coastal Management, the Coastal Resource Commission's request, and that's it.
Thank you. Any more questions? Any more discussion? Ms. Barrett? At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the development line that was approved by Coastal Resource Commission.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the development line as revised and include the associated plan consistency statement.
All in favor? Oh, a second.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Did you get that, Debbie? Okay, thank you. Public hearing number 2. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on a proposal to change the speed limit on Yacht Drive. Do we have anybody speak?
Yes, ma'am, we have Miles Varner.
Mr. Varner, thank you.
My name is Miles Varner. I live at 114 Northwest 3rd Street in Oak Island. And I wanted to speak just briefly about the topic of changing the speed limit at Oak Island. And it was really a question when I saw the proposal for 25 miles an hour for commercial vehicles and 35 for residential. Obviously, there's going to be a problem if they should mix together, but the other thing is it doesn't seem to me to address most of the objections to changing it. I understand were from commercial enterprises, contractors, and so on, who did not want to be limited to 25. And with this proposal, they would be in either case. My feeling is, just generally, I wonder maybe somebody can answer the question. I fail to see why commercial vehicles wouldn't just use Oak Island Drive, go down to the whatever 100 block they're addressing, and then go over on the side street at 25 miles an hour, and then do their work. They wouldn't be limited more than 25 miles an hour for more than a block, presumably, if they did it that way. And on the other hand, I don't see that Yacht Drive needs to be a thoroughfare for contractors or businesses of any kind. It's primarily a residential area. So that's just my thought on it. I think it should be 25 miles an hour throughout the area on Yacht Drive, as well as all of the town-owned roads, unless they're marked otherwise. I do think there's a problem with the signage. I'm not sure that it's workable to try to enforce, for example, speed limits without adequate number of signs or having them on every street. It would be too easy, I think, for people to say, well, I didn't know it, or whatever. I do think we can resolve that, some of it, by making it known as best we can to everyone coming in and out, or living or renting in the city. But it is still, I think, limited. I personally think that the state's laws in this regard are completely screwed up. I see no reason why, when they control all three ways of getting into the city, they would not want a sign out there saying that the citywide limit, respecting the decisions of the town council and of the citizens of the city, why they can't put a sign there to that effect, because it's the law. So I object to the law. I'll just make that. I will say one other thing. I think there are other ways to address the signage which would be an improvement over the few that have been suggested without objection of the DOT.
Thank you.
Edward Drizwicki? All right. I followed your phonetic spelling this time. Thank you.
Mayor Wiki, 128 Northwest 19th Street. Hear about the speed limit on Yacht, currently 35. I'd like it reduced to 25. Been here before, talked about it, and without going into great detail, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic on Yacht, both joggers, dog walkers, bicyclers, golf carts, and there's really, what I'd like to do is to kind of reverse this a little. I did a little calculation, and the difference between 25 miles an hour and 35 miles an hour is 40 seconds per mile. Now, that's not a lot of time. I mean, there's no reason, and I'd almost like to reverse it and say, how do we justify 35 versus 25 when we know there's a narrow road, heavily trafficked by pedestrians, and it's a narrow road, no lines on it. So to me, it's almost like reverse logic that we should be justifying why is it 35 versus not 25. So again, without going into length, I think it should be left at, it should be reduced to 25. The difference in time is insignificant. Over a 3-mile ride on West Yacht, you'd be talking an additional 2 minutes. So it just doesn't make sense to me that we should have it at 35 miles an hour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Shire?
Sin, are you coming?
Jim Shire, 3503 East Yacht Drive. Like Ed, I've been here to speak before. Thinking about this today, going on Yacht Drive is what I'd like to think of what Forrest Gump used to say. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get when you open it up. When you get out in Yacht Drive, you don't know what's going to happen. Is somebody going to run up behind you and clip you from the back? Are they going to try to pass you and their trailer comes in and clips you? Are you going to hit head-on somebody trying to pass a vehicle in the other lane? If you live there, it's even worse. When you back out, you don't know whether you're going to get blindsided by a speeder coming down, and especially when you go out to your mailbox, are you going to get clipped by somebody coming down and they're too much of a hurry to slow down and allow a vehicle coming the other way to pass? Every day I run into a situation, and I'm sure plenty of people can tell you the same. Please think about the safety of our residents and our visitors when you consider this, and lower the speed limit to Yacht Drive to 25 miles per hour. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we had signed up.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This time I'll entertain a motion to close a public hearing number 2.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? All right, we can take action on this tonight, so I'm assuming there will be some discussion. We have Jake here in case you need some clarification. Anybody have a question for our planner, Jake?
I'd like to ask our police chief a question,
Okay.
if I may. And you may not, I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat, okay? Are you aware, how many accidents have occurred on Yacht Drive in the last 12 months that were related to excessive speed?
In the last 12 months? I don't know of many offhand. I'm sure we've had one or two, but I can't come offhand and tell you what they were. I know of several in the past, where people have actually lost their lives on Yacht Drive. But in the past 12 months, I don't know about those.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, this is the way I see it. If we lower the speed limit to 25, it's still got to be enforced. And if we're not going to enforce 35, how are we going to enforce 25? So I think there needs to be a plan put together, how we're going to enforce and keep people from speeding down the road, because if we move to 25, they're coming up to Oak Island Drive. That's just the facts. They're going to do that. So my thing would be, we need some kind of plan put together, how we going to stop them from speeding, because 25 is just a number. They're still going to speed unless we enforce it.
Yeah, and
I think the safety of every resident, because I've rode my bike down Yacht Drive, and people fly down there. So I think there needs to be a plan that we actively go after these speeders and let them know it's not going to happen. And if we can do that, then maybe we need to lower it to 25. So we need to come up with a plan first.
yeah, and I think it would be a total, complete nightmare to try to have two speed limits, one for vehicles and the other one for commercial vehicles. I personally, and I've paid a lot of attention to this for the last 30 days, and I understand what the concerns are. And I agree. I think the thing for us to do is to lower the speed limit to 25 on Yacht Drive. I think that would be the sensible thing for us to do, the reasonable thing for us to do. And it's like the gentleman said, if you're going from end to end, it's going to only take you 2 minutes longer, for goodness sake. If you're in that big a hurry, you shouldn't be on island time anyhow, right?
Councilman Blaylock, do you have anything to add, you or Councilman Bell? This time the chair will entertain a motion to lower the speed limit on Yacht Drive to 25, or however you would want to put that.
I don't mind making the motion, but I'd like to just say, and so our police chief can hear it, I know the hard part of this whole thing is enforcement, and I know you can't catch every speeder. I know that. But we've got to put a plan, if we're going to lower the speed limit, we've got to put a plan in place to enforce it. If we aren't going to enforce it, then we need to leave it alone. So given that, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to lower the speed limit on Yacht Drive to 25 miles per hour from end to end.
Have a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? 2. All opposed? 2. And the mayor makes a tie, right?
Yep.
Okay, I vote to lower it. You got that, Vinnie?
Can I say one other thing here? These can be emotional issues. I know some people are really mad now because we lowered it, and some are glad. When we focus on a decision like this, we're looking at what's best for the people that live on Oak Island. That's what we have to look at. That's what we've got to base it on. I've had several people ask me this week to please not do this, but they didn't have a good reason why they didn't think we should do it. From the perspective of the overall island and the people on the island, I think this is a good decision. I think we made the right decision tonight, just for whatever it's worth.
All right, thank you. Move on into our presentation of proclamations and
Madam Mayor, we have one more public hearing.
Did I skip 3? I'm sorry. Public hearing number 3. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizen comments on proposed amendment section 18-226, special provisions for conditional use. Do we have any speak on that?
I'm sorry, no, we don't have any speakers.
All right, this time I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing number 3.
Motion to close public hearing.
Close, second. All in favor, please? Thank you. Discussion. Is there any discussion or questions for our planner? I'll entertain a motion, if not, to...
Well, just, you're in a hurry tonight.
No, I just, doing business.
We have the conditional use permit already in place. It was voted on last month, correct? These are the provisions, and this is what we ask you to do.
Details.
And, I think, on page 13, under number 25, large dwellings, it says large dwelling, single family, a large home may be established upon, I think that should read a large home over 3,999 square feet. Should it not?
It should.
Yep. So that needs to be changed. I mean, some people consider a 1,500 square foot a large home. And I'm pleased to say, one of the reasons that I was so adamant last month about I wanted to see these provisions before we put this in place, I'm pleased to say that what I see here I think is reasonable, and I think it's something we can all live with. It's going to satisfy some issues, and so I'm good with it.
Anyone else?
I just have a question for Brian. You don't see anything that's going to cause us any heartache, do you?
No, not with respect to the ordinance. Now, when it comes time to have the quasi-judicial hearing to determine whether a permit should be issued or not, I mean, I don't anticipate any problems. I'm just saying that's the more difficult time frame.
Okay. Thank you.
Each application for a conditional use permit has to be heard in a quasi-judicial hearing, right?
Correct.
Each one. So there's still some protection there.
Absolutely, but if you go to append condition, I mean, if they meet, if the council, and this is all a hypothetical, obviously, but if the council determines all of these standards are met, they get the permit. Even if you wanted to otherwise add a special condition, you have to have a rational basis to add an additional condition in addition to A through M of the standards. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's just where, in general, all towns, they get sticky is when it comes time to actually look at an application. But I think these standards are fine, and we'll just cross that bridge when we get there.
So with no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the,
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the amendments to section 18-226, special provisions for conditional use as presented, and to adopt the associated consistency statement as amended.
Second.
all in favor? Unanimous.
And if you could just one more time for the record, note where you wanted that extra square footage addition.
At the top where it says large dwelling, single family, a large home may be established upon a finding that such a use will not constitute a nuisance because of traffic. It should read a large home over 3,999 square feet may be established upon finding. That's the purpose of this.
Thank you.
We have, Lisa, the agenda hasn't been amended yet, so what?
No, if we can just announce, we had a presentation on potential refunding of our wastewater bonds, and our financial advisors are in Charlotte, so they're going to try and make it here some other time. They're not able to cross the state right now.
We do have a presentation for school bonds on November's ballot, Brunswick County Schools. I'm sorry I don't have your names. So if you'll introduce yourself, I'd appreciate it.
Ma'am, Sue Rutledge, 133 Northeast 5th Street, Oak Island, and I'm the Executive Director of Operations for Brunswick County Schools.
And my name is Beverly Urey, and I live at 2538 Martian Drive, and I'm the principal at Southport Elementary.
Mayor and council members, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. We're going to show a short video, then just take about 3 or 4 more minutes of your time and then take question and answer.
You just click on the picture. I don't know why there's no sound.
While they're getting that up, if I could take just a minute to say how appreciative I am of the town staff as well, to get our roads back open so that, you know, we can get going with school. Town staff's done a great job.
She's probably got the other one.
She muted it.
Can you read lips? Can y'all read lips?
Hurry up, man.
Having some technical difficulties.
This is where audio would be. There are no plugs for it.
Okay, well, we'll have to try and run it from here again. The signal was just so weak, it wasn't pulling it up.
Okay.
You can try to. You had it on here. Okay, hold on. Okay, so you're gonna do it.
That's okay.
It's an internet problem. I'm sorry. That's okay.
That's okay.
But I was on there earlier.
Madam Mayor, why don't you take a short recess?
While we're waiting for that to, are you up and running?
No, ma'am, I don't have a wireless
Well,
signal.
we're going to take a 10-minute recess while
Okay.
we're waiting for you to get up and running.
Yeah, I'll eat my snack.
They're important to me, and I think I can talk about them just fine.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, you're on. We're good.
Okay. The last time voters were asked to approve school bonds in Brunswick County was 1999. And the amount of that bond was $83.5 million. And all that money has been spent. All projects that were planned in that bond referendum were constructed. Today, we received money from the state lottery, but that money has been that, all the money that we receive pays off the debt on 2 new construction projects. And that is a building addition at Waccamaw School and a 12 classroom addition at North Brunswick High School. The payoff of the remaining 99 bond will occur in 2023, and the combined tax bill for the existing debt from 1999 with the new debt from 2016 on a $200,000 home is estimated to increase by $1.54 each week, and that is about $80 per year on a $200,000 home. Our schools, we have some deferred maintenance issues that we need to take care of. If you have kids in our school, I know you've seen those. But and some of the bond money that, if these bonds pass, we'll use those to improve the interiors, exteriors, landscaping at all our schools. But the biggest driving factor, or one of the biggest, is growth. Right now, we have overcrowded schools in the north end of the county. And because of that, if we're not able to construct a new middle school and additions on some elementary schools, then we will have to redistrict. And what that does, it starts at the northern end, and we just start moving kids down Highway 17. And so it would affect a number of families in the county. So the driving factors that we have in our schools, number one is growth. Number two is accessibility. We have interior modifications that we need to make so that we're able to, our kids are, kids with special needs are able to access where they need to go in the school. And we have athletic improvements at all of our middle schools and high schools that we intend to make. There are no other available funding sources for the school system to complete these building improvements. Our operating money is used in the educational part of the system. There is operating funds to maintain the schools, but there's not enough money to make many capital improvements. As I said, the school system receives benefit from the lottery through the annual state budget. We receive about $900,000, and that's used to pay the debt service. The one issue in the school is that when the economy slowed in 2008, funding to schools and everything else was cut, and that funding has not been restored. But our school system, as far as enrollment, has continued to increase. One question some people have is the Brunswick County Academy, and is Brunswick County Academy underutilized? Brunswick County Academy was, the voters approved Brunswick County Academy to be built as an alternative school. And alternative schools, by DPI guidelines, have smaller classes and smaller class size than traditional schools. So if we use Brunswick County Academy as a traditional school, we would have to do interior modifications to the building to be able to enlarge the class size and use the building as a traditional school. Town Creek Middle School is the new school that's planned. It'll be built on land adjacent to Town Creek Elementary School, so we don't have to buy the land. And we will not have to construct athletic facilities because we'll be able to use the adjacent park. Improvements to athletic facilities are necessary for student safety. We need to improve our lights. We need to improve our drainage around our athletic fields. And just in general, we need to improve our athletic equipment and the look of our athletic facilities. We feel like that's important we know it's important to the kids, and it's a source of community pride. In addition, we will be making improvements to women's athletic facilities, as we're required to do for Title IX, but just because, it's a good thing, it's the right thing to do. Learning environments, that's why we're all at school. So we know we want to positively impact the insides of our schools. We plan to build science labs. Right now, our science labs, a lot of them are on carts. We don't have space for the adequate equipment that it takes to outfit a science class for today's learning environments. Technology, also, we've improved our technology in our schools significantly over the past 2 years, but we're trying to get to a 7-year cycle for replacements, and we will be able to do that should these bonds pass. And that's for our 7-year cycle replacement for all of our computers and our network technology. Also, we'll make improvements to arts facilities, band rooms, and music rooms. We'll put an addition on all 3 high schools for career and tech classroom areas that we don't have adequate space for now. Career tech education is becoming very important for today's students, and we don't have adequate space for it. Modular units, we have those at South Brunswick High School. We have a lot of them at West. By adding on, putting the small additions on, even at South Brunswick, the Career Tech addition, that will free up classroom space in the school, so we will not have to use modular units as classrooms. I've lived here a year and a half, and I have not been in the school business. I was in the city business, as a matter of fact, before I got in the school business, and I have come to realize how important schools are to a community, and we believe that a strong school system helps our economy in the county and all the cities they're in. And I'll take questions now if you have them.
Any questions for these lovely ladies?
Were there plans, or are there still plans to build a vocational school? Or are you going to, I know that in the beginning there was.
This bond does not include a standalone vocational school, but it does include additions at all 3 high schools for vocational tech.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Sorry we had to go to Plan B, but
It's okay.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We have a proclamation about Fire Prevention Week, which begins on October the 9th and ends on the 15th. We, of course, as council and mayor, we encourage everyone to check your smoke detectors and replace your batteries if needed, and to have an emergency plan in place. All right, moving on to the agenda. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to add council's approval to the consent agenda, approval to waive permit fees for storm-related repairs.
Number 3 under consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Also, under new business, number 4, a discussion above the Oak Island Pier. And add to closed session, statute 143.318-11A6.
And 3. I'm sorry.
And 3.
And 3.
All right, 3 and 6.
Okay, any further amendments?
Madam Mayor, I would like to take off item 1 and 2 under new business and table it I think that this is such an important issue. I think all of our council should be here.
And I'm sorry, I neglected to mention earlier that Counselor Scott was excused from this meeting. I just wanted to note that on the record. Thank you.
Any more amendments? Anyone? Lisa's that got us covered on what we didn't have on there?
I believe so, yes. Now you need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve as amended.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, moving right into our public comment sections. Please remember you have a 3-minute time limit and welcome all your comments. But please note, if you're here to speak about the paid parking issue, that will be on next month's agenda. So we've taken it off the agenda now. You're welcome to speak about it, but it will also be back next month. Do we have any?
The only person I have is Mary, and can you pronounce your last name for me? Frere, thank you.
Good evening. I'm here to present for the Oak Island Beach Preservation Society.
State your address, please.
My address is 205 Southeast 77th Street.
Thank you.
Oak Island. We had a beach sweep, successful beach sweep with very positive findings. The sweep took place on September 17th and 28th. 17th, was residents and visitors, and then the 28th was supported by Duke Energy. We had 117 volunteers in total. We collected 337 pounds of trash and 73 bags, which was down from last year. Overall totals were 20% reduction in trash from the sweep. Last year was 12,000 pounds roughly, and this year it was reduced to 9,500 pounds. Not great numbers, but it's an improvement. The big offenders were cigarette butts and food wrappers. Although we were down on the cigarette butts from last year, we were up in food wrappers found, bottle caps, and grocery bags. Grocery bags actually increased this year. But overall, in all the categories, the numbers were down and the trash collected, so positive findings, and just hope we can keep that trend going for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I had one other item to let you know that our Beach Preservation Society wine tasting will be held on April 22nd, and it will be from noon to 2:30 at Island Way Restaurant. Thank you.
That's good news that it's down. Could be better. All right, do we have any council reports tonight, Madam Bell?
The only thing I do want to say is we have been very blessed, and I want to again thank our staff, our public services department, development services, fire, police, Lisa, Rob, everybody. Thank you so much. Those guys were out by 6 o'clock Sunday morning. Mr. Edwards met the damage assessment team at 6:30. Lisa, I think, has been here through the duration, and of course our fire and rescue police department have kept us all, tried to keep us all safe. So I just want to say again, thank you.
Councilman Bowman? Councilman Blaylock?
I'd just like to mention on several occasions after the storm, I saw some of the local merchants and neighbors step up and help some of our seniors and some of the people who needed help. And that's a great thing. That's what a small town's all about. And that's what makes it special.
Councilman Michael?
I'd also like to thank staff. We had a meeting last week, talked to staff about what we're going to do, what were the plans, and to see them to jump into action and actually take this and run with it and get this stuff done in the timely manner they've done a tremendous job. So I think everyone, the staff in this town needs a great big thank you.
Thank you. And of course, I've already expressed my great appreciation, gratitude to our staff. and to our council. We were all on standby. We had our phones. We were very active and were putting out as much information as quickly as we could as we received it. Also like to say thank you, the citizens of Oak Island. I have never seen, I never doubted it, but when this hurricane proved what I already knew, was that the citizens of Oak Island in time of need pulled together, and it's a whole it's a culture where neighbors helping neighbors, and I believe I've even heard the police chief say that someone posted on Facebook and for a four-wheel drive, and there were 20 people had responded just by someone needing help, and we had a hotel owner that offered to allow our staff to stay for free during the time. It was just very heartwarming, and I want to say as mayor, I greatly appreciate all the citizens participating and helping to make our island safe during this time and to help your neighbors. And I hope we keep seeing that every time we have a disaster. Thank you. All right, now, moving to the consent agenda, at least I have to call for a motion to approve that. As amended. Please, motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
All in favor? Thank you. Do we have any administrative reports?
Well, I think you all covered the thanking the staff part. I just wanted to add my.
Would you like to thank this council?
Yes, no, I would. You all were very helpful. You really were. You know, because we can only handle so many calls at one time, and I know you all were fielding calls too and relaying questions to us and helping us get information out. And even Jim even participated on the damage assessment team. I also wanted to thank the volunteers who do help us with the damage assessment team. It helps us get a handle on what's going on the island. And, you know, in the event that we did have to do a mandatory evacuation, those would be the people that could help us get people back on the island as quickly and safely as possible. And also just our response is not ending, of course, as far as cleanup, but we're also sending some fire department personnel inland and also to Pender County to help with flooding issues that other areas are having. So,
thank you.
Just wanted
Town
to note that.
attorney?
No report, thank you, Madam Mayor.
We have no old business tonight, so we're going to go straight into the new business. Well, the first thing on our agenda is a presentation of Mr. Johnny Martin. Is he here?
Yes, he is here.
It's a consideration of whether to pay for participation in the Wilmington Harbor dredging project for beach renourishment for the East End. This item will be provided prior to the meeting, allowing time for Moffett and Nickel to make a recommendation, which that's why Johnny's here, and we'll discuss it afterwards. Oh, can't look on the screen.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for letting us come and speak to you tonight. And anyway, I just also want to say, you know, I know Lisa and the staff did a great job. We were texting back and forth a lot too, trying to help out as much as we could. And, you know, we're continuing to see what we can do as far as a FEMA perspective and what will be going on for that. So I wanted to start with just a little bit of things we've been pulling from Hurricane Matthew. So anyway, just for everyone's general knowledge, we went back and just looked at the water levels, and we looked at sort of some modeled surge at Oak Island, and then as far as what was measured at Myrtle Beach, as far as water levels, we haven't gotten any data yet as far as, you know, high water marks or anything of that nature. So I'm sure this will change, but just based on what is available on the internet right now for nearby water level stations, it looks like it was probably somewhere between, from a surge perspective, between a 5 and a 10-year event. From a wave perspective, there is a measured wave gauge that UNCW has right offshore of Sunset Beach, if you can see, denoted as Sun Wave 2, as well as one that the Corps of Engineers has out at Frying Pan Shoals. And so the one for Sunset Beach looks like it was between a 1 and a 2-year event, whereas looking at the one at Frying Pan Shoals would be more on the order of a 10-year. But there again, just given sort of the track of the storm and what we think probably were the waves that were actually hitting Oak Island, We think that those are probably somewhere more in that 13 to 14 foot, so it would be somewhere around a 2-year event. So 2 years from the wave perspective, but probably up around a 5-year with the surge, which again also points to why there was a number of areas of overwash. So just so that everyone knows, the town has authorized as part of our annual monitoring, we did have a task for a post-storm survey and report. So we actually have 2 people down here that came down here today. So if you see Brandon Grant and Adam Eford are their names, they'll probably be here tomorrow as well doing our part of the field assessment. As far as the detailed surveys, that's going to be completed by our subcontractor, TI Coastal, and I talked with them on the way down here, and they will be in town on Thursday. And so what we'll be able to do with that is, since we did the annual survey that was back around beginning of August, and now we'll have this survey, we can really sort of document how much material was lost during this event. And again, what we're looking for to see is that, of course, the town as of yet has not done their own project, so we can't really work under the permanent work for a FEMA engineered beach. But we do want to see if we could get some help for maybe what they call emergency work, which is creating a temporary berm or a small dune consisting of about 6 cubic yards per foot of sand above the 5-year surge level. So I just showed that graphic to the bottom left, and sort of if you could imagine what we'll do is we'll get the survey in, we'll draw the line where the 5-year surge level is, which is around elevation 5 feet here, or excuse me, 4.5 feet, and we'll measure that volume of sand, and if it's 6 cubic yards or greater, FEMA would not reimburse, but if it's less than that, or if we don't have any above it, then there's a potential for us being able to at least submit to FEMA and talk with them about helping to pay for that. And of course, that would probably be done with dune pushing or scraping. So the potential FEMA reimbursements, there's 2 options again under Section G, the emergency work that I just talked about. So if the beach is eroded to a point where a 5-year storm will damage improved property, emergency work may be eligible, and again, it consists of a temporary sand berm up to 6 cubic yards per foot or the pre-storm conditions. So if you didn't have 6 before the pre-storm, they'll only pay to go up to the pre-storm condition. And that can be constructed with material or sand from Overwash or the low tide beach. If there's not enough material with the escarpments that we've seen, and there's probably not, at least until the beach has some recovery from the water side, we'll probably be able to do it from the land side. But if there's not 6 cubic yards per foot, they do allow for imported sand to be done, or a truck haul project. So that might be a possibility depending on where we fall out. But again, it's not allowed in front of unimproved property. So they will not pay for vacant lots. And of course, the permanent work, since at least at this time we don't have the FEMA engineered beach, that's not currently applicable. So there again, I know there's always a lot of questions about what that is. And so, again, just to remind everybody what the FEMA engineered beach is that it does offer the benefit of the beach volume loss during a presidentially declared disaster event. If you do have a beach that was constructed by placement of imported sand to a designed elevation, width, and slope, and you're doing a maintenance program with periodic nourishment, show that you have the funding to make sure that you are maintaining it, and then you are following a maintenance program that preserves the original design. So you always at least have that amount of sand out in front, providing that protection that you said you were going to have. And again, here's just some of the ways that you have to document that for a FEMA engineered beach, as far as the design plans, the plans for the initial project, and then any maintenance that's being done. So the next steps that we see for Hurricane Matthew is that the Corps of Engineers, Lisa's and their staff's heard that the Corps of Engineers will be here tomorrow to conduct a field investigation. So I know that they were, acting as agents of FEMA during the Joaquin work that was last year. So, but we've also heard that FEMA has started sending out teams and that there might be some in Brunswick County. So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't reach out to you maybe tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll conduct our own field investigations. Moffett Nichols currently on site, and TI Costa will be here on Thursday. There was also a meeting today with town staff and DCM about dune pushing, beach pushing, scraping. So the couple of options that seem to be the most viable is that there's an emergency permit option as long as it stays less than 1 acre total for imminently threatened structures. So what we would say is that there's an emergency permit that they could work under, that the town could work under, as long as they keep it, the total amount of sand moved less than 1 acre. So that would probably be enough for if there's any imminently threatened structures. Tara was going to go back and look and see that she thought that in the files that there was a major permit that was already on hand for the town that would allow for beach and dune pushing and scraping, and that was probably had expired, so there might need to be a modification done, and especially from the fact that, we want to be sure that the town can push the material that's come on the landward side and to push it back out, for this creation of a small dune. And then holding discussions with FEMA about the emergency work option and potential reimbursement. So we're hopeful that, over the next week that some of these things will really come into focus, and we'll kind of know what the path forward is. So is there any questions on that before I talk about the core project?
Can I just clarify one thing that we've talked about today with DCM staff? We were just talking about the only pushing of sand that we were going to do was what was washed into the accesses. Is that correct? I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
Currently.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about the Corps of Engineers, the potential for the town to participate in what we call a Delta project. So I just want to remind everybody sort of the reaches that we have sort of designated with the initial study that we did for you guys, starting with Reach 1 in the eastern end of town, moving to Reach 5. The red lines are showing some of the representative transects that we use to do some of our calculations. But just remember that Reach 1 goes from town limits to southeast 63rd. Reach 2 goes from that point to 19th Place East. And then Reach 3 goes from that point to 10th Place East. Reach 4 to 47th Place West. And then Reach 5 goes, down to Lockwood's Folly Inlet. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I just want to remind everybody that there's kind of really two types of dredges that do this work here for the Wilmington Harbor, and one is a pipeline cutterhead, which is typically used at inlets. That's what was done for the Eastern Channel project a couple of years ago, if you guys remember. And the big thing about that is that it's really a barge with a big pump and a cutterhead. You can't hold the material on the barge itself. So it's just really a pass-through, if you will. And so there's always this long amount of pipeline that's coming out the end of it that goes up onto the beach. So there again, it's kind of, stays fixed. They add pipe as needed to move it along, but it can't hold material on site, and it's a pass-through. And so the distances that you can use with those types of dredges are kind of really limited to the pump size or the discharge size of the pump that's on that dredge. They can, of course, use booster pumps as well if they need to. The other is a hopper dredge, which is really like a big vacuum cleaner that sucks the material up from the bottom and then holds it onto the ship itself, and then the ship can sail and then go to a pump-out buoy and still pump it up onto the beach. But those are typically used more in an offshore setting. But what those allow you to do is to have a much wider range of how far you can be away from a potential sand source and still get material on the beach cost effectively, okay? Because this will become important when we talk about, what the Corps is planning to do. And as you can imagine, with a pipeline cutterhead, which is what they normally do for the types of projects that put material on the beach, here and on Bald Head is that with increased pump distance comes the cost. The cost goes up because there again, you got this pipeline, you got miles of pipeline that are coming out the end of this, and friction loss within the pipe itself. And so the longer the pipe, the harder the pump has to work, the less sand that can come out the end of the pipe efficiently. So that's why you see these costs go up with distance. I just show you an example plot here of a 24-inch dredge with a 10,000 horsepower pump. You can see the green line is with no booster. So you get up to about 25,000 feet, and then all of a sudden, if you add a booster pump, your unit rate per cubic yard of material put on or dredged starts going down. So, up until about 25,000 feet or, 4.5 miles, with this size dredge, it's most cost effective to just use the dredge itself. Once it gets longer than that, you have to start adding some booster pumps in order to kind of keep the unit rate down. But there again, you're having to pay for the mobilization of the booster pump and additional pipe. So it kind of becomes a little bit of a balancing act, which you'll see in a minute. So it's always good to go back and look at history. In 2001, when the big harbor deepening project was done, there was placement to station 294 or Southeast 63rd Street. Pumping distance of about 6.3 miles. Now, when I say the pumping distance, we also have to account for where the dredge may be out in the channel. So, there's a couple of miles of pipe that's out in the water before it actually ever comes onto the beach. So that's why you're seeing these distances being as long as they are. We went back and looked, and that was a pretty large, or it was a larger pipeline dredge. It was a 30-inch, but they also had a hopper that was doing some work here too. So, it was kind of hard for us to determine where they might have been putting sand at different areas of Oak Island with the different types of dredges. In 2009, they went to Southeast 74th Street, which was a pumping distance of about 5.5 miles. We also do a lot of work in Carteret County, and a lot of times with the amount of material that they dredge there, that they the bid ends up going to usually a little bit of a smaller contractor or one that uses a 24-inch pipeline. And the reason that becomes important is because in our discussions with the Corps of Engineers just over the last couple of weeks, between their budget limitations and what the pilots are telling them. Now remember, the Corps of Engineers, their mission is navigation. Okay, and so the fact that so that's what their main priority is just to provide navigation. It's not for beach nourishment, except in areas where they're doing coastal storm damage reduction projects, such as New Hanover County has. So the budget limitations and the pilot priorities, they're only going to dredge, right now they're saying 500,000 cubic yards. And that's going to be mainly in Bald Head Island 2 reach and Smith Island Channel reach. Usually they're dredging about 1 million cubic yards out of the beach compatible portion of that project. So right now again, this is before the storm happened. There might be more additional shoaling. This might change. But based on what we knew last week, they were only going to be planning on dredging 500,000 cubic yards, and the placement would only be in Caswell Beach. So there would be no material that would come to Oak Island during this cycle. Okay. And again, with this lower volume, if you can imagine, we're thinking that it'll be a smaller dredge that'll ultimately get this project. We have to be conservative when we're giving you guys estimates of what the costs are going to be. So, we think, based on that information, that it's going to be a smaller dredge, and so a pumping distance of 4.5 to 5.5 miles might be likely. There again, the Corps they're going to probably do surveys. This may change a bit. They may get some additional funding that may allow for what I'm getting ready to show you to be better than what I'm getting ready to show you, but there again, this is what the information we have right now. We also found out that there were some placement limitations, so that the Corps has informed the town that it only has environmental clearance to place the material as far west as Station 308, which is roughly Southeast 64th Street. And this is a huge constraint. and one that the town should investigate getting moved further west, either through the Corps or its own permitting. And I'll show you why that's important here in a minute. And so also in thinking about a project for this year, there's also budgetary limitations. The town currently has a maximum allowable budget of $4 million in the beach fund. So here's just some plots to show, like you see where the bridge is coming over at the town limits, how far the 2009 nourishment went versus the 2001. Now there was an additional, in 2001, there was the turtle project and everything else, so there was material placed all along Oak Island during that time, but this is what that came out of the channel, best we can tell based on the data that we have. I just want to remind you too, when we talk about these volumes and level of protection, one of the things that we did when we did the initial study with you guys was to kind of come up with different levels of protection and how much volume it would take to protect versus different storm events. And if you recall, we were kind of always looking at this volume of sand. So if you're sitting out in the water and you're looking down the beach and you can see the dune, you know, going offshore, the offshore bar, we're always looking at this sort of area that I'm showing you in orange yellow here, from the top of the dune out to the outer bar, and kind of thinking of that as a cubic yards per linear foot of beach for protection. So why that becomes important is when we start looking at, okay, if we want to place, if we have funds and we want to put the material, where should we put it? You know, because there's always limits of money and everything else. So we're trying to plot this measured volume along the beach. And so we start to the right of the graph is reach 1. The middle, reach 2, reach 3, reach 4, reach 5. So what you can see is that overall, reach 2 is the one that's the most critical at this point, has the least amount of volume of sand from the top of the dune out. But of course, I draw the black line and show the Corps of Engineers during, for the project as it's currently permitted, can only place it from the big black line east. So there again, if we had our druthers, we'd like to go further west. And again, that's why I say that one of the things we should definitely do in the future is talk to the Corps of Engineers about what it would take to get that permit authorization to at least go further west so that we can get some of this material in the future into the areas that need it most. But there again, we have what we have with this one with the constraints we do. Again, why is this reach 1 a little higher than that? Well, it's because this is where we have placed sand in the past more often, right? Of course, the extreme western end of the island is, you know, where we did the Eastern Channel project. And what you can also see, the dark line across, the dashed line is where you would have to get to for a 10-year level of protection. The solid, or the line above, would be the one which you would have to get to the 25-year level of protection. So what this is telling you, and in reach 1 where we can place the sand this year with the Corps, is already above a 10-year level of protection. Okay, it's the best, probably one of the best areas on the island, with the exception of the extreme west end. You can see how much we would need to add to get reach 2 up to a 10-year level of protection, as well as reach 3 and reach 4. But there again, we just have this constraint. So we started looking at options. And so the first option is that, again, we're going to assume a smaller dredge, given the lower volume of sand that we have, that we think that they're going to dredge this year. Again, this could change. But if we look at no booster pump, then the town could expect to place material between the town line and up to 74th Street. We think once you get past that point, you would need a booster pump with a 24-inch dredge. So that would roughly be about a mile of beach placement, and the average unit price would be a little over $11 a yard. So depending on how much money the town wanted to spend, you can figure out what the cubic yards are, And then, since it's a 1 mile project, or roughly 5,000 feet from 2,100 to 2,600, you can sort of estimate, how big of a berm that is. So the, 179, 700 cubic yards divided by the 5,000 feet is roughly 36 cubic yards per foot, and that's a 100-foot berm. And I'll show you a graphic that kind of explains that a little bit in a second. And just for general knowledge, the Corps of Engineers, what they're planning on placing in Caswell Beach is roughly 50 cubic yards per foot and a 100-foot berm. So, again, if we kind of look at a profile, what I'm showing you here is, at least for 2 representative sections in Reach 1, what a 50-foot berm would look like, which is the blue line. A 100-foot berm is the green line, and 150-foot is the orange line. And I guess I don't have a pointer here, but what I want you to kind of look at is, if you can imagine, if you place this material out there, it's not going to stand at that 1:15 slope that we've assumed. They'll construct it at that, but in it, very quickly the waves and tides will sort of equilibrate that material. It'll flatten the slope. And so one of the things we're looking at always with these kind of projects here is, what does the offshore look like? Because there again, you can fill way out, but if most of it's just going to slump and go offshore and there's nothing to kind of catch it, then that might not be the best use of funds, right? So we're trying to be a little smart with what we've been given. So there again, there's always Goldilocks, right? There's the low option, the big option, and just right in the middle. And so that's why we're kind of showing that here, especially like at Station 270, where you can see we do have a little bit of an offshore bar in that area. So there again, that would help as the thing equilibrates. I mean, it's still going to go underwater, but at least it will be held within the system more than, say, a 150-foot berm, where you're just going to have some that's going to go out past the offshore bar, and then it probably will come back on shore. But there again, with limited resources, trying to be as smart as we can. Okay, so that's why we're saying a 100-foot berm. Option 2 is with a booster pump. How much further west can we get? And I'll show you a graphic too about how, where these would go in a second. The issue is here is that, before you even pump the first cubic yard of sand, you got to pay the mobilization, demobilization. You got to pay the cost of the dredge to bring that additional equipment here and then carry it away. And so for a booster pump and additional pipe for the additional length, in talking with some of the dredging contractors, we're estimating that would be $1.5 million right out of the box. And so then, if we could place the material between the town line and all the way to where the Corps currently has it authorized that we could put it, that would be roughly 9,800 foot, or about double the length. And the average unit price would be about $11 a yard. So then the cost breakdown, you'd have to take the $4 million, you have to subtract the 1.5, which leaves you with 2.5 divided by the 1102, 226, and that's a 23 cubic yard per foot, 50-foot berm. We feel like that unit fill would be a little too thin. There again, we'd probably have an increased unit cost, because these, the dredge contractors really like to see 30 to 40 cubic yards per foot. That's how they can kind of, that's kind of a good, efficient placement rate for them to have the bulldozers on the beach, it keeping up and being able to add the pipe, and it just works out a lot better, and you end up with sort of an optimal unit rate if you can do that. So we think then that we'd have to shorten that distance, and so if we do that, we wouldn't start right at the town line, we'd start sort of in the midpoint and go to the end. Again, with distance, that's going to increase the unit cost a little bit, but we'd be able to do roughly 218,000 cubic yards, 100-foot berm. But now what I want you to always remember is that you're having to pay that $1.5 million before they ever show up, right? So that $4 million is your total cost. And so when you divide out by that 218,700, it's roughly $18 a yard. There again, just wanting to show what the 50 cubic yards would look like. It also then at the bottom right profile, you really see it's station 300. Really, there's no dune there, and the relationship of the berm to that area, which this is getting into Reach 2, which is just a little more vulnerable than say some of the others, mainly due to the fact that there's not much of a dune in that reach. So sort of a summary of the two options is option one would be starting at the town line and roughly going to 74th Street. The estimated cost would be $2 million, so it would be roughly what the town has set aside right now for that in the bank, I guess, for in the beach fund. So the pros of that is it's a lower unit cost, and you would have part of Reach 1 now even above a 25-year level of protection, but the con is, of course, the sand's really needed further west. Option 2 with the booster pump, we'd start sort of at the midpoint within Reach 1. That would again take all the funds that the town currently has. So the pros are the placement of the sand is closer to the area in need. I mean, it is getting closer to Reach 2, and we know that material kind of there is this sort of east to west. So the hope is that it would kind of eventually get into that area. But again, the cons are it's a higher unit cost, and the MOB, deed MOB for the booster pump is a high percentage of the budget. Again, you could make this project more cost effective again with more funds, and if we had a longer distance to put it over, and the sand still needed further west. So here's what those two projects would look like. So again, you see the bridge coming over. So option one would go roughly the first mile at 179,000 cubic, or 180,000 cubic yards with a 100-foot berm. Option two would skip about 4,000 feet and then put a mile in, and we'd kind of at least be getting a little bit into Reach 2. So this is going back to that same plot and just seeing how far that bumps you up, the option one versus the option two. And you see it does put you above the 25-year level of protection for those areas. So what is our recommendation? Well, there again, this all may change now with the storm, and if the Corps is able to get more funding for this, or if there's more, if it's changed, what the shoaling is. But given the information we have right now, the bid prices will vary depending on the time of the year the plans are released. So there again, these projects can only be done over like a 5-month out of the year because of the environmental considerations with turtles and birds. So again, as this project is, may be delayed and pushed further out, the longer it takes to get the plans out, the higher the unit rate is going to be because the plant will be used and there won't be as much competition. This kind of work is, especially with these kind of larger dredges, there's not many companies that can do this type of work, maybe 4 within the whole country. And so you can imagine the unit rates you may get may be all over the place. But, however, given that a larger dredge may bid on the job, I mean, there's also a project that's going to be done at Morehead City Harbor. If we did have a larger unit or dredge bid on the job, say a 30-inch versus the 24, we might get better unit rates. And so our recommendation would be to show construction of a 100-foot berm from the town line all the way to 308. Now the bids would likely come over the $4 million budget, and they likely will. But you can always negotiate down, and see what we get and see if we can come up with a project that would make sense for the town to do. Again, the town's really not bound to participate in this. I mean, the MOA that the Corps, that the town has with the Corps just says that we're interested. We want to participate in this, but we don't have to. So, I mean, if the town were to say tonight I mean, you're not binding yourself to say that you will do this. Depending on where the bids come in, the town can always just say, well, you know, this is too expensive, it's not going to make sense. Especially if the bids don't go out till late in the season. I can, you know, almost guarantee that even these unit rates that I'm showing you here, they'll be much higher than that. So, there again, I just want you guys to understand that you're not bound to saying that you will do it. But I do think that there is a value in us just seeing what we get for this and testing the waters. And, you know, again, work on a long-term MOA with the Corps, and then work on further west placement of material in the future. So again, that would be our recommendation, just because at this point, you're really not bound to it, and you can always say no. So with that, I'll take any questions that you guys may have.
Any questions for Charlie? Anyone have any questions for Mr.
Isn't this a wonderful position to be in?
Yeah,
It's kind of like going to the meat market and asking the clerk behind the counter, how much is that steak? And he says, well, how much money you got? And I'll tell you how much I can sell you.
Exactly.
We're just kind of over the barrel, so to speak. But I like your plan. I mean, I think it's wise for us to do the exploring and see what we can get. If we can back out and walk away without it costing us anything.
Right, and that's why we would say it's at least worth that. And then, and again, just given how things may change, maybe the Corps will get some additional funding through what's happening here. We just don't know that yet, but it's enough. There's enough potential positives, and I think it's in the town's interest. The other thing that's just in the back of my mind is that we all know that, you know, this source will be, there's not going to be any cheaper sand than it coming out of this channel. So, my opinion, my recommendation, I guess, is that, you know, if we can kind of get this relationship going with the Corps of Engineers and show them that we're serious and that we, you know, may, if it makes sense for the town, participate, then, you know, the next step, if we end up getting lucky or fortunate or blessed, or if Providence smiles upon us, we can participate this year, then the next step is to say, okay, Corps of Engineers, what would it take for us to get permission to not only go to, you know, where this black line is, but what can we do to get material further west, well into Reach 2? Okay, so I mean, I think that those potential positives are enough of a reason to test the waters and see.
So just, if I can ask one question.
Sure.
What we've done so far doesn't make us obligated to go forward, but we can also, at this point, give them some kind of figure that we're interested in spending, and that still doesn't make us obligated to do it.
Correct. And so what will happen is that, you know, we can say that you know, what they want from us is an amount of money and what we would like to see as a project. So if you guys approve that, we can tell them the town has up to $4 million and we would like a 100-foot berm from town line to 308. Now what will happen is that the Corps will run the same numbers I did, and they'll come back and they'll say, you don't have enough money. And then we'll say,
Had that mistake, right?
we'll say, you might be right, but let's try it. And they may say, well, we're not going to put it out like that. And there may be some negotiation where they may not be comfortable putting it all the way to 308, but then we could say, well let's at least put it to, you know, 280 or something like that. I mean, what I would push for is I want to get it to where it's a little bit above the budget, and then if we get lucky, I hate to leave anything on the table, I guess is what I'm saying. So I'd rather make it a little larger than what we think we could actually pay for, and then if we get lucky with bids, then great. We can always say no if the bids come in way high, or we can always say to the contractor who wins that the Corps awards the project to, okay, well, we know that you said 5.4, what could you do? And again, we will not be in a great negotiating position at that point because we'll be talking to one person. But we could at least say, okay, how much would you charge us to put that 100-foot berm to this point and see if we could work out something that makes sense for the town.
Of course, you'll be guiding us through that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Does that include the 1.5 million for the mobilization and demobilization, or the dollar amount you just said, the 4 million?
Yeah, the 4 million would be including the 1.5. So if who ends up winning the job is a smaller dredge and the booster pump's needed, then we will have to pay part of mob demob. If we get lucky and a larger bid does it, they may not charge any extra mob demob. They might just say it's going to be this much per cubic yard of material. We won't know that until the Corps gets the bids in. But to answer your question, I'm operating under the thing that the 4 million is the absolute max that we can spend right now. So if it does end up a booster being required, then that's going to come off the top, and then we're only left with the remainder 4 million minus whatever they charge us is what can be used to put sand on the beach.
Johnny, given where that dredge is going to be, they're going to have a booster pump anyhow to get on Castle Beach, aren't they?
No, sir. No, they can actually get to where they're planning on placing it without it.
So then they're going to have to move it all the way down the beach with bulldozers, right?
They can reach where they're planning on putting it right now. They can reach with a 24-inch dredge without a booster pump. But there again, the way that they'll bid this out too is that they'll say, what'll be on the plans is if we can come to an agreement of what to put for the optional project, is the way the Corps will do this is they'll put a base bid, which will be their 500,000 yards in Caswell Beach, and then there'll be an option. And the option will be whatever we agree to them that's reasonable. So the option would be, if we can go this route, would be a 100-foot berm from the town line all the way to 308. And so then what the dredge will do, and there'll be a couple of line items for each one of those two. So there'll be a base mob demob and a base unit cost per cubic yard of material. And it'll probably be dredged. It probably will not be placed. So they'll have a mob demob and a unit rate for the base project, and then they'll have a mob demob and a unit price for the optional project. And so then that way we'll be able to quickly tell, is this going to be feasible? Or, I'm sure there might be some negotiation that we could enter into with the awarded contractor from the Corps. But at that point, as you said, we're really not in a strong position because we're talking to one person at that point.
Ms. Sykes, do you have anything to add? I know you were in meetings and...
Yeah, I mean, at this point, since we're still just testing the waters and not obligating the town to spend any money, I think that we should at least ask the question. Sure.
Okay, so you're asking direction from the council on how to
I'm
proceed
asking,
with that?
yes, if council will give us direction as to an amount that we can tell the Corps of Engineers we're interested in using for the project.
Just for exploratory, non-binding?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your...
Yes, ma'am, let's make that clear.
Yes.
And what is that? Is there a time frame on that? I know there
I did
was.
have a call from the Corps of Engineers again today, just to remind me that they were going to be looking for an answer within the next couple of days. They did at least acknowledge that we had a storm.
That would put us in a negotiating position, but not an answer to say move forward.
Correct.
Well,
Just to include us in the bid,
right.
or to give us some numbers.
Yeah, what we owe them is what do we want to see on the plans for the option?
Right.
And so what we're asking you guys is that, what we're asking you guys for us to be able to call the Corps tomorrow and say, $4 million, 100-foot berm from town line to 308. And again, they'll say, that's not going to be possible. and we'll say, let's try it. And there'll be a little bit of negotiation of that too, I'm sure, before it goes into the plan set with the Corps. But that's what we're asking for tonight, is at least the authorization to tell them, this is what we would like to see as an option in the plan, and it's non-binding.
And do I understand it correctly that even if we had money, tons of money, we can't put it past, because we don't have an emergency permit past 63rd Street?
Well, the Corps of Engineers is part of, we're operating under the authority that they have for their project. Okay.
I got you, I got it, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the other thing that we were talking about was sort of the emergency dune pushing and things of that nature. This is more, you know, we're trying to tie on to their project, and what's in it for the Corps, why they're willing to do this, is because it's additional material they get to dredge out of the channel to help meet the navigation. So that's why that's why they're amenable to even talking with us, because it is a little bit of a thing for them to have to add this in, but it's not a ton of effort, but anyway.
And the benefit for Oak Island is that they're giving us the sand. We've just got to get it up and get it on the beach. Is that?
Well, they'll actually take care of, the dredge contractor that they award it to they will be responsible to place a 100-foot berm in where we tell them to, as long as we're agreeable to the funds that they require.
One thing for sure, we're not gonna get any cheaper sand, are we?
No, sir, I mean, you know.
I mean, the dredge is already gonna be there, right?
Correct. Correct, and as you recall, you know, there's not too many offshore sources nearby. I mean, if we move forward with the next step of the master plan, you know, the first thing we were going to try to do was see if we could find some material in yellow banks and things of that nature. But still, it's not going to be any cheaper than this material, especially. So that's why, I mean, it's, you know, it's in the best interest of the town, I think, for us to, if we can get this to work again, to try to get the line moved further west, because that's just less, that's allowing you to piggyback onto the Corps project. Now, again, it might only be every 6 years, but there again, if we might be able to save and reduce the cost of the overall plan if we could get to the point where we could take care of Reach 1 and a good part of Reach 2 with material out of the Corps channel.
Just for some clarification to our citizens, because we have just had Hurricane Matthew, you are talking about two separate things. One is an emergency push because of the storm.
Right.
And then this is a harbor project that has been in the making for years, and we can actually hook onto that and get free sand.
Well, not free.
Not free, nothing is free.
Right, that's right.
At a reduced price for sand because they are already out there.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
I just wanted to make some
And again,
clarification.
we have to talk
so
to
that-
FEMA to see if we can even get reimbursement for that.
Correct.
For that small amount, but we should at least try. You don't know till you ask.
And if that is your recommendation, I would certainly hope that that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Any more discussion? Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Martin. Appreciate your time. Staff is asking for a motion
Yes.
or a direction?
If you wait till the screen goes up.
I don't think you need a motion.
Well, I guess,
Okay,
the
I'm
motion.
sorry.
You have a consensus to
I'm sorry,
direct
Mr. Reeves
staff.
is saying we can just do a consensus.
There's a consensus.
Consensus.
Because you're
yeah.
not binding the town to anything.
That's right.
It's
Right.
exploratory at this point.
So we need a consensus to
I'm
give you
good.
direction.
I'm good.
I'll give you the authority to move forward.
And they're already raising hands.
We got a consensus.
All in
Yes.
favor, please. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody's, okay. We're in.
All right. Ooh, that will hurt your head. The next thing on our agenda, the last and almost final thing, is the discussion of the Oak Island Pier. And for those of you that have not already seen the video or have heard it, we did lose about how many feet?
About 60.
About 60.
60 feet of the pier? The Oak Island Pier went during the hurricane. So I don't know what kind of discussion you wanted to have.
Well,
on
I
that.
just wanted to share some of the information that we've learned. Did have an engineer out there Monday morning, and until we get a formal report from him, we do have to keep the pier closed to address, so that we'll have time to address any of the recommendations that he has as far as construction. We will put a diver down just to check on the pilings that remain. And then hopefully we're going to get that report this week, do you think? So we'll have more information for you as far as what we need to do to fix the pier. And like I said, mainly I wanted you and everyone to know why we have to keep it closed.
Okay. Any more details you need to share?
That's interesting, because I had one of the old fishermen from out there come by my house this afternoon and told me that the pier was opening to fish only 11:30 in the morning. And they're all getting their gear polished and ready to go.
Well, that's
So,
interesting, because I don't think we've told him that. No.
Wow.
Might be the Ocean Crest Pier.
No,
No?
no,
He
they
said
were
Oak
talking
Island
about
Pier?
our pier.
Okay. Well, we'll be
I
glad
don't know
to,
where they got that.
we'll be
Have
glad to
they-
check on that in the morning.
Did we have someone out there today putting safety rails on the end?
I'll ask David about that.
He's probably already done that.
Oh, yes. We haven't had anybody out there yet. We had put up some caution tape and everything was still closed. That is one of the recommendations that the engineer has provided to us, is to cut that leg that's still is sticking out of the current tee. Cut that off, board that up, put some X bracing, do some other things for electrical and some other items that will be included in the report. That's one of his recommendations, is for that to be cut off, boarded up. And that's what you'll see sometime this week.
They're gonna be disappointed.
Any more discussion?
Yep.
All right. Chair would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
We got the
Was there another?
waiving the fees.
That was on the consent agenda.
Oh, that's right.
We're good.
We're good, never mind.
Entertain a motion to go into closed session, please.
I make a motion to go into closed session to address 143.318-11, A, 3, and 6.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry.
That's all.
Oak Island Town Hall meeting is called back to session. I'd like to make the statement this time there was no action taken in closed session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All in favor? Thank you.